Hi! In today's episode, we're going to leave Africa's most famous mountain to start venturing into all of the natural parks for the most popular activity that is done in Eastern Africa, and it's going to be safaris. In this episode, I want to talk about everything that you should consider when you're looking to do a safari and some of the most popular parks to visit in Tanzania. So let's start. First, what things should you have in mind when you're going into a safari? To answer this, I want to make a clarification that may sound obvious to some, but is going to be basically how a safari actually works. So you're going to be all of the time in a safari in a vehicle that is basically driving around the park, trying to find animals. But since these animals are going to be living in the wild, they're not going to be easy to find. So most of the time you're going to be driving, not seeing the actual animals. And for this reason, I would say that I don't recommend safaris for very, very small children. They'll probably get bored or sleepy when you're being in a car driving all day through African savannas. And so even though seeing the animals is going to be very, very exciting and the landscapes are incredibly beautiful, I think this is not a plan that's suited for children. I would say it's better for adults. And so now when we're thinking of choosing the perfect safari, there are going to be a few factors that you should think about, such as duration, price, and destination. And I'm going to start talking about the first two factors that are going to be a little bit more subjective. So duration, I think this is subjective because it depends on how much you like animals and how much time you want to spend in a safari. When I went to Tanzania, I did a 7-day safari to visit all of the major parks, and I felt like it was a perfect length. However, when I was looking for tours, I saw the option that there are some 10-day safaris, there are 2-week safaris, or there's even just like 3 to 4 day safaris. So I believe the medium duration of 1 week is going to be ideal because, as I mentioned, a safari is going to involve a lot of time that you're searching for the animals, not actually seeing them. And so if you spend too many days on the safari, probably you'll start to get bored in the car. But on the other hand, if it's too short, you might not manage to see all of the animals, which are often going to be a little bit of a matter of luck. So clearly, the more days you spend, the higher the probability of seeing more animals. But I think that you can see everything in a week. And a week will be the sweet spot where you love it, but you won't get tired of it. Regarding price, I think this is going to be a little bit subjective because it depends on how you usually like to travel, either like budget or luxury things. And it is important to clarify that the price is going to vary mainly depending on the conditions of the lodging and the food, rather than on the quality of the safari itself. All of the safaris essentially are going to be the same in the sense that they will all just put you in a vehicle and you'll drive around the parks and then you'll go back to sleep, right? So therefore the price is going to just change depending on food and lodging priorities. Now, the good thing is that I've done both options. Let's say I've done the very, very budget safari, let's say, and I've done the better quality one. When I traveled solo, I did the budget one because I didn't really care about like staying in better conditions. So I did tents. I was sleeping on the floor in the middle of the park. But then when I went back again with my family, with my parents, we were celebrating my parents' anniversary. So of course, I didn't want them to sleep on the floor. And I opted for the better option. Not the most luxurious one, but I would say the mid-range option. Where we would sleep in beautiful lodges, and I could see the difference. So I'm going to basically explain what was my experience with both sides. With the budget one, I was, as I told you, sleeping in tents. And this meant that since I was traveling solo, for example, they would sometimes assign me another girl to share this, let's say, like large cabin style tent. Or when it was a tent just on the ground, I would sleep alone. The bathrooms throughout all of this time, of course, were shared. The food wasn't elaborate. It was, let's say, basic, but it was also delicious. Like, I really love Tanzanian food. But this is going to be the budget option. Regarding the other trip that I did with my family, this one was way better because, of course, you're going to have private bathrooms. So, for example, if you want to wake up in the middle of the night or just take a shower, this is going to be a luxury thing that you won't have when you're in tents. Sometimes when you're in tents, you might not even get a shower. So, of course, this is going to be a luxury that you won't have when you're in a tent. The other thing is going to be food. Food over here was amazing. So I have to say that I love Tanzanian food. And when I first went, I thought it was so delicious because it was so simple. But here I could see very elaborate food. And I personally am a foodie, so I really enjoyed this part. But then, as I'm telling you, everything else was exactly the same. So I did it for the comfort of my family. They wouldn't like sleeping on the floor and just, let's say, camping. But when I did it by myself, it was okay. So I would say it depends on your budget. Safaris are always going to be relatively expensive. So of course, if you're trying to cut all possible costs, sleep on tents, it's going to be pretty cool. If you want lodging, then of course you should stay in the better option. I would never pay for the like super luxurious options that maybe you'll be seeing on social media where people are like having breakfast with giraffes and feeding them, because this ones can probably cost over $10,000 or some crazy number. So now that you already decided on duration and on your type of budget that you're going to choose, the last thing I'll cover is the destination. And this is going to be the only objective factor about a safari in this episode, because I'm going to talk about all of the possible parks that you can visit when you're in Tanzania. Every country is going to have different parks, and you're going to see the different types of landscapes or animals depending on the park. In Tanzania, the 4 best parks to visit, and in my opinion, like this 4 you should for sure go, are going to be Tarangire, Serengeti, Ngorongoro, and Lake Manyara. So Tarangire, I'm going to start. It's a national park. It's an immense park. It's roughly the size of a small country, and it is super convenient to visit because it's very close to Arusha. In this park, you're going to find large savannas and swamps that are going to be the refuge for various animals like antelopes, buffaloes, zebras, and over 550 species of birds. However, the most famous things in this park are going to be baobabs and elephants. The baobabs are going to be probably my favorite tree in the entire world. These are fascinating trees. They typically grow up to 20 or 30 meters, but their diameter can start from like 2 meters to like 10 meters. Nowadays, they're going to be mainly cultivated for their fruit and their sour leaves, which you can probably also try while you're in Tanzania. But the interesting part about the baobabs is that in certain parts of Africa, like in Tarangire, you're going to find baobabs that are over 3,000 years old, and they are the oldest trees in existing, nearly doubling the age of sequoias, which is why all of these trunks of baobabs are going to be so massive. And this park, Tarangire, has so many baobabs that the landscape feels almost like you're in another planet. And then on top of it, it will have lots of elephants, which are going to be a huge attraction for Tarangire. That live in this park are going to have herds of up to 300 elephants. So this park, I highly recommend for those 2 things. Second, you'll find Serengeti, which is going to be possibly the most famous safari park in the entire world and Africa's most impressive natural wonder, probably. The Serengeti was named by the indigenous Maasai, and this is going to translate to endless plains, which is going to be very easy to see once you get there because a grass-covered savanna is going to stretch out without the end, and it's going to feel like the Lion King scene where Simba is with Mufasa and he's saying, everything that the light touches is our kingdom. This is going to be basically Serengeti. The landscape will have a lot of strange rocks formation, which is where you'll often find the predators. And again, this also will seem again like the Lion King, where they are the pride rocks of life, and they are putting up Simba when they are showing him to the entire savannah. But the entire Serengeti Park is going to cover around 15,000 square kilometers, which will translate to nearly 6,000 square miles of protected area, and it's going to have over 1,500 species of animals, including lions, leopards, cheetahs, elephants, rhinoceros, giraffes, buffaloes, zebras, wildebeest, and gazelle. So this park, for me, was the park of felines because I saw so many lions, so many cheetahs, so many leopards. I could understand the difference between each one, which before I went to the safari, they all seemed kind of the same. Now today I could identify each one of you and tell you how they live, how they hunt, what their differences are. So I think if you love all of these animals, this is going to be the perfect park for you. And aside for the many felines, this park is also going to be known for the Great Migration, which is going to be one of the most impressive natural spectacles on the entire planet. So remember the scene of Mufasa's death? Well, that's going to be with the Great Migration, because around 1.5 million wildebeest, 250,000 zebras, and 400,000 gazelles are going to leave the Serengeti to the Masai Mara National Reserve in Kenya. And they are going to be doing this migration, basically over 2 million animals of moving from one national park to the other, and they're going to be crossing rivers and forming scenes that are going to be worthy of National Geographic. This migration is going to happen between late July and early August, and it's the largest land migration in the world. It's going to occur basically because of the rains. So Tanzania is going to basically run out of the edible grass because they've been eating all of it. And so these animals are going to walk into Kenya to eat over there. And the migration is going to cover around 800 kilometers. The animals eat more than 5,000 tons of grass along the way. But the most impressive part, of course, is going to be when the wildebeest will cross the rivers. Usually they have to cross running because in the rivers, you're going to have a lot of crocodiles that are going to be waiting for them. And they have to cross running, ideally to avoid being eaten. And it's believed that around 6,000 wildebeest are eaten by crocodiles through these crossings. In any case, this is going to be one of the most impressive natural spectacles in existence. Honestly, it left me speechless. That said, seeing this river crossing is going to be a matter of luck. I was able to see it, but I know of people who went on safaris for even 2 weeks and they couldn't. It's almost like the Northern Lights, where it depends on luck and nature. it's going to be outside of your control. However, you can plan the location and the date and specify to your guide that you really want to see this, and then all of these things will increase your odds of seeing the migration. If this thing is of interest for you, then you have to see it in Serengeti or Masai Mara, because these are the two parks that you should visit. The Serengeti will be in Tanzania, Masai Mara will be if you visit Kenya. Then the other parks that I recommended, Ngorongoro and Lake Manyara, are going to be the other two that are important. Ngorongoro Crater was formed by an inactive volcano that erupted around 2.5 million years ago, and this is going to be the largest volcanic crater in the world. It has a diameter of 26 kilometers and a depth of 610 meters. This park has many birds and, of course, all of the other famous animals, but it's going to be a little bit cloudier and colder. In fact, when I went, it was so cold that we were closing the pop-up roof in the safari car the first time. The second time it wasn't as cold, but definitely you might need like an extra layer over here, maybe like a jacket. And the last park, Lake Manyara, is going to be known because it has incredible pink flamingos. There can be even like 2 million of them in the lake. And this is also going to be the center for the tree climbing lions. These are not going to be very common to see in other parks because lions don't usually like to climb up high, but in this park you will see them in the trees, almost as if they were leopards. So if you want to see them, that's what you should do. So as you can see, each park will have something special to offer. And when I went, I did 1 day in Tarangire, 2.5 days in Serengeti, 1.5 days in Ngorongoro, 1 day at Lake Manyara, and 1 day of like cultural immersion. And I think with this distribution of days and parks, I managed to see all of the animals and also indigenous communities from different areas. And since each park has something unique, my recommendation would be visiting all of them like that. If you prefer certain highlights over others, then you can prioritize based on the descriptions. Whichever destination you choose, though, the ideal is to stay long enough to see the famous Big Five. And these are going to be the 5 African mammal species that were traditionally sought after by hunters. They're the most iconic animals to see in a safari, and many say that you haven't truly been on a safari unless you see all 5. They are going to be the elephant, the lion, the leopard, the buffalo, and rhinoceros. Rhino is going to be the hardest to see because rhinos, especially black rhinos, are very endangered and very few remain, even within the parks. Some people don't complete the list because of rhinos. I was lucky enough to see the Big Five during both of my trips, but again, this is going to be something regarding luck. If you go and don't see them quickly, don't despair. Tell your guide, and I know that your guide will do the best efforts to try and help you find them. And so, as you can see, I got apparently the best of luck in my trips, but I think this is also because of the agency that I chose, which offered the best balance of the criteria that I usually use for evaluating a safari, which is going to be price, duration, and destination. So again, my agency was called Northern Maasai Land Safaris, and the tour with them was perfect. I've done both of the tours with them, the budget and the non-budget one, let's say the comfort one, and I think they were amazing in both of them. With the solo trip that I did budget, they placed me in a group that had similar age to mine, which made the trip super fun and unforgettable. And when I did the other tour, since I was with my family, we basically filled up the entire vehicle. So it was more of a private tour, but it was fantastic. So I would 100% recommend that you take them. And I know that choosing which safari agency to go to might be hard because there are so many out there, but I chose them because of 2 reasons. First, they are one of the best rated on TripAdvisor. That's how I found them. Their service is going to be as spectacular. They will always be providing reliable things. Henry, which is going to be the owner of the company, is always helping you either tailor your plan or like find your best interest. So if you tell Henry, like, I really want to see the Great Migration, he'll be tailoring the itinerary for you. Or if you have different priorities, he'll help you change it. So I think they are one of those companies that can help you truly personalize your trip depending on which place you want to go to. And the second thing is that they are local. So for me, this is very important when I'm traveling. I want all of the money that I'm spending in this country to actually support all of the locals. And so Henry is one of those persons. He will take this money. He has a small foundation where you can also do volunteering if you're interested. But so he's doing everything local, unlike all of these other big agencies, which I won't say the name, but probably you've seen them when you're looking for trips. They charge twice as much. And what they do is just hire local agencies, and they're just the intermediate that will take part of this extra money that they charged you into other countries like the US or Europe. So my advice is to always go local, find these local agencies that are providing exceptional service like Northern Maasai Land Safaris, and take your tour with them. I can also guarantee they are trustworthy. I know that it might be scary that you sometimes have to pay up front. This happens with every tour, but I've gone with Henry twice and he is extremely reliable. So I cannot talk for all of the local agencies that are out there, but I will put my hands on fire for Henry. If I go a third time, I'll probably use them again just because I've been so happy all of the times that I've been traveling with them. I'll drop the link of my agency in the comments, but I hope that after listening to this episode, you are ready for taking the best safari in Tanzania, and you already know the different criteria that you might consider, such as the budget, the duration, or the destination when choosing your perfect safari. Let me know in the comments what surprised you the most when you travel to Tanzania, and share my episode with someone else that you want to travel to Tanzania with, because this is going to help me tremendously to reach more people worldwide. Also, give me a review and let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next week where we're going to be exploring Dar es Salaam. See you next week.